I wanted to share some thoughts with you guys today and a few clips because I think what we're seeing at the moment with RFK's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience and the Twitter war that has ensued is culturally very significant. And for a number of reasons. And also, there's a part of that podcast that nobody's really talking about that I want to bring to light. But first of all, here's what's been happening, and this has been a juicy one. Jacked, healthy, critical thinkers, RFK and Joe Rogan did a podcast together where RFK voiced some concerns about vaccines and the dangers involved with vaccines. And RFK is an expert on this stuff. He's written multiple books about these matters and has basically dedicated his life to it. And also he's vaccine injured himself, hence his voice.
I'm very, very happy to be here. Can you hear me? If you can't hear me, raise your hand.
And so after this free-flowing conversation, the mainstream establishment brigade came out in force, condemning the misinformation and slandering the two men. The Matrix media started attacking them. Vice started attacking them, which you can see my comment here. You guys are going bankrupt and not even George Soros is going to save you. And with that, of course, came along the midnight snack eating unhealthy PhDs that are for some strange reason intent on drinking the dirty bathwater of Big Pharma. And it's all the same stuff we've been hearing for the last few years. It's getting quite old, and quite frankly, it's a narrative that is collapsing. These people are saying it's misinformation and they should be censored and they don't know what they are talking about. And these highfalutin academics not only think that they are the best scientists, they think that they are the science. Because we, unwashed, unclean peasants, don't know how to read a study or read a graph, and we cannot make up our own minds about these things. So anyways, one of the individuals who came out to criticize them was none other than Dr. Peter Hotez, a serial midnight snacker of Maltesers that actually went on Rogan and admitted as much. And so Rogan responded, offering him $100K to come on the Joe Rogan Experience and debate RFK, to which he scoffed. Because obviously, $100K is nothing compared to what Big Pharma pays. But seriously, anybody who's a critical thinker knows that if you are so confident that he's a quack, and if you're so confident that he has no idea what he's talking about, then debate him. Simple. I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to the science of vaccines, but the fact that these experts won't go near a debate with RFK, with Dr. Peter McCullough, with Robert Malone, makes me not trust them. And then Mark Cuban comes out with a shameless plug for his own company, which caused Patrick Bet-David to get involved. And I'll let PBD explain that situation. Just before we get there, guys, though, I do hope you take a second to like this video. Help me get this message out, if it is one that you resonate with, to as many people as possible. Subscribe to the channel and have all those notification bells turned on. Back to the clips.
Here's what Mark Cuban says. Way to generalize, go a little bit closer so I can see it. Way to talk in generalities, Joe. Not saying that there aren't a lot of effed up things about pharma. That's why we created costplusdrugs.com. But to ignore that same industry has saved who knows how many lives. It's bullshit, and you know it.
Plugged for himself.
It's also disrespectful to all
drugs.
the doctors, researchers, and medical professionals that dedicate their lives to saving lives, like Dr. Hoetz, the 800,000 plus doctors in the country that believe vaccines save lives. You aren't trying to find a ground truth on vaccines. If you were, you would bring other people. Trying to bully, keyword bully, Dr. Hoetz is ridiculous. You have producers that will prepare you. Same as RFK. You both do this on a daily basis. Dr. Hoetz works every day to find ways to help people. Joe, you and Musk and Twitter are mainstream media, online media, and your platforms have become everything supposedly wrong with mainstream. You are driven by self-interest. This is after he plugged in his company.
Yeah, in the first line.
Just like the MSM has always been accused of. And you both have earned the right. You busted your asses to be great and do what you do, earn all you accomplish, but don't lie to yourselves and all of us and tell us you are different. You aren't, okay? So that's, and then I respond back. By the way, all of these tweets get 50,000 likes, 100,000 likes. Joe's gets 200,000 likes, millions on top of millions of views. So this is my response to Cuban. Joe trying to bully Dr. Hoetz. Interesting. Let me address 5 issues with your tweet. Bullying, number 1. Millions of Americans of all walks of life were bullied into taking a vaccine. Some forced, some coerced, some lost their jobs. Families were divided. Late-night hosts doing skits in syringes. Mayor of New York City giving fries. NIH director flip-flopping on masks. MSM calling those who question the vaccine conspiracy theorists, and you call Rogan a bully. Okay, number 2, capitalism. Awesome. What makes capitalism work? Freedom to buy, sell, try, fail. Keyword is freedom. You told me 10 years ago Tom, you weren't doing when we were in Nashville. When I asked him what's his favorite book,
Yep.
he said Atlas Shrugged. I even gifted you a first print, first edition of the book, I think November of 2015, when I interviewed him at the American Airlines Arena.
In his office.
Yeah, in his office. A story of dystopian America in which private business suffers under increasingly burdensome laws and regulation.
Thank you.
Of all the people who know what happened the last 30 years, it's you. We all know who got destroyed in that book, the small business owner, the man and woman who risked it all, okay? They were mocked, bullied, silenced. How were laws and regulations during COVID? How many small businesses owners lost everything? You know the stats, you know the numbers, you know you're against this. I sometimes wonder what you fear. What is preventing you from using your logic and experience and common sense and that you have a ton of to share your POV with your followers? Number 3, debate. What's wrong with debate? I kind of suggested for him to run for 2024. And if he can go a little lower, about protecting these guys, let's not disrespect these people that are doing this. One of the benefits in America is the healthcare system. My dad, 37 years, got a massive heart attack. He wasn't supposed to live past 65. We just celebrated his 81st birthday. But just like cops, 99% of them do the right thing. The 1% who don't, should we not hold them accountable? All Joe is asking for is a debate. If Dr. Horwitz is right, then what's he have to lose? Is he too good for it? You sure don't free debating anyone. Why protect him? Debating is the American way. It helps us get closer to the truth. And then Musk and Rogan, comparing them, I talk about what happened before October when we didn't even have Twitter. We could only debate in private settings. Our RFK interview was taken out 2 years ago. Content creators were walking on eggshells. Musk isn't silencing anyone who's arguing for vaccines. He's actually creating a climate to have the debate. Just last week, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this clip or not, on MSNBC with Jake Tapper and Rachel Maddow. One is CNN, one is NBC. They're like, we won't air the Trump speech because we already know in advance that he's going to tell lies, as if Joe Biden only tells the truth. Yeah. That sounds like a dictatorship where the elite knows what's best for you and I, as if we can't think for ourselves. A bit arrogant and pompous, don't you think? Thank God for Twitter, Spotify, and Rumble. And last but not least, I gave him a credit for plugging his company as a market. I respect your strategy of getting into this threat to promote cost plus drugs. A lesson to all small business owners. Keep pushing the envelope. We need more voices. By the way, all of this is going on. All of this is going on simultaneously. Guess what? He's not doing the debate.
So big respect to PBD there, because I know that he actually admires Mark Cuban and he looked up for him for a period of time and maybe still does a little bit, but he's not trying to kiss anyone's ass and he's not afraid to give him a piece of his mind. So guys, this has been lighting up Twitter. And by the way, if you're not following me, Jake Rattlesnake, RattleSNK, on Twitter. I'm quite the Twitter man these days. Been only using it for about a month. Didn't really know how to use it before then, but I'm getting pretty decent at it. But moreover, to the point, I am thrilled to see this happening because the big, heavyweight, anti-establishment characters of the world who believe in freedom and liberty are standing up for just that. And they are making serious noise. Rogan, PBD, Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, plus all of those who have offered money to see the debate happen, just to see the establishment narrative get completely decimated. Whether or not the debate happens now, by the way, because it happens, they lose that debate any day. It doesn't happen, it shows that they're too scared. Furthermore, the aforementioned guys are all self-made. None of them are taking donations from big corporations. None of them are beholden to really anybody, and they are all ferocious freedom fighters and men that completely understand the necessity for open dialogue. And on the other hand, you have individuals that are tied up in all sorts of interest groups, whether that be their peer groups, their friendship groups, their professional environments, their donors, their secret donors, the individuals that have the photos of them from Jeff's Island. We are seeing in real time the narrative shifting and overwhelming support coming from the now not so silent majority, which fills me with hope. And I wouldn't have said that not so long ago, but I really do believe that people are waking up. And there are still many, many battles to be fought, including, and one of the most important ones, central bank digital currencies. But with these very strong, competent, wealthy men of means who are leaders emerging, I think we're in with a good chance. But now there is a part of the JRE RFK podcast that actually really blew me away. And it gave me a whole new respect for RFK, because you don't often hear politicians speaking from a place of deep, learned introspection and philosophy like this, and I really enjoyed it. And I can't play the clips from Joe Rogan's podcast because of copyright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it to you with visuals, and I'm also going to leave the Spotify link to the podcast and the timestamps below. So Joe asks RFK what it's like being somebody who is carrying around these ideas that nobody wants to hear, nobody wants to believe, and everybody thinks he's crazy, but he knows are true. And to this, RFK responds with a story that 2 weeks before his father, Robert F. Kennedy, died, he gave him a book with a peculiar type of intensity and told him to read the book. A book called The Plague by a philosopher named Albert Camus. He describes that after his father died, he then went back and read this book 3 times to try and understand the meaning behind what his father was trying to tell him. Now, it's funny that this should happen because The Plague is one of my favorite books, and I actually carry it around with me on my travels by one of my favorite authors in Albert Camus. And it's about a walled city in Africa that has been ravaged by an unnamed virus, and everyone that's getting it is dying. And the first parts of the book are about this doctor and his thoughts about the plague and how they don't know anything about it and they can't treat it and it's killing everyone. So he just thinks to himself, why don't I just stay inside? Because there's nothing I can really do about it. Why don't I just wait this out? But then in the end, the doctor ends up going out and just comforting people. But to the point, what Camus is saying about this doctor is that he had brought order to the chaos that was happening around him by doing his duty. Keyword there, duty. He then goes on to mention the iconic hero of Stoicism, Sisyphus, a character that has been condemned by the gods for doing a good deed for humanity. And he's been ordered to push a rock up a hill, and this rock or this boulder just falls every time he gets to the top of the hill. And then this process repeats, and this is what he is condemned to do for the rest of eternity. And on the topic of Camus, he has another book, The Myth of Sisyphus, which is a heavy read, but also a really good one. I'd recommend that too. Now, I was paraphrasing what RFK said just then, but now a direct quote from him. In the Stoic cosmology, Sisyphus was a happy man because he put his shoulder to the stone. He was given a duty, and he does his duty. And that self-sacrifice he makes brings order to a chaotic universe. We are all living in a chaotic universe, and so for me, to have a concrete task that I know is right, I feel is a gift. And the more people heap abuse on me, the bigger the gift is. Now, I'm certainly not convinced about everything that RFK does, and I'm actually a little bit worried that he would get pushed around by the globalists, especially with his views on climate and a few other of the policies that he sort of insinuated. I think he's doing a fantastic job of tackling some enormous issues, but I think that there's a few blind spots in his worldview, but that's for another video. But what a wonderful and brilliant mind RFK has. I didn't know about that part of him until now, and you just don't really hear politicians speaking like that. For those of you who enjoy the work of the Stoics like I do, to hear a politician invoking them like that is quite special. But the story about his father giving him the book The Plague is so fascinating. And it almost seems like his father handing him that book was like destiny, to use that extremely cringeworthy word. Almost like a prophecy. Think about it. His father, who was going to be assassinated a few weeks later, hands him a book with unusual intensity and says, read this book. And the book is about a plague, a pandemic, whereby the main character, who's a doctor, manages to bring some order to the chaos around him by way of self-sacrificial duty, even though this could come at great cost to him personally. Now you can see the parallels there between RFK's situation and the philosophy of duty that he feels compelled towards and the notions that permeate that book. And if that sort of thing doesn't give you goosebumps, then I don't know what does. It's almost like his father passed him the torch. And lastly, what I find very interesting is just man's search for meaning and how ingrained within us it is to bear responsibility, and how so often when one goes on a philosophical journey to understand the meaning of life, they come back to the same notions: duty, responsibility, honor. Like the story of Sisyphus, having to push that stone up the hill the whole time, but he's a happy man. Why? Because he put his shoulder to the stone. What a freaking awesome line, by the way. Putting your shoulder to the stone. Tattoo that one on your forehead. Sisyphus finds meaning in his duty. He finds purpose and ultimately joy in his suffering. And just when you feel as though the ideas of responsibility and duty are dead in the water, an event like this happens, which makes the future look a little bit more bright. Just when you think that all hope is lost, you get people like Jordan Peterson that pop up with his message. Clean your room, get your house in order, take responsibility for yourself, be the one that people can rely on at your father's funeral. A message that has had an indescribable and immeasurable magnetism around the world, which is something truly to behold. So I think the takeaway from this video and all these ideas is the notion of duty. Not only do people find meaning in performing a worthy duty, they also have the ability to change the world in a positive way, big or small. And the more we have strong, powerful, moral, duty-driven individuals fighting the good fight, the more we have individuals thinking long and hard about what their duty is and how they are going to play their part, big or small, the better chance we have of turning the tides. So with that, as per usual, guys, check me out on all socials. And if you guys want to watch another video, click right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.